Good afternoon. It is Friday, October 4th at 1:59 p.m. Hope you're doing well. Earlier in the week, the men's basketball teams from the Big Ten met in Rosemont, Illinois, I believe, for a couple days of Big Ten media talking. And it used to be just a media day, I think, before the conference expanded. Now, of course, you really need it with as big as it is. So, Matt Painter had some good thoughts. Smith, Lawyer, TKR, and Caleb First all joined him up there. But some good takeaway. Your boy Max G is first here. Let's go. So I wanted to give him credit for being here first. But before I dive too far into my thoughts of what I saw on the media day, I want to thank our friends at Homefield Apparel. Head over to homefieldapparel.com. Check out their platinum packs. If you want to go big, you get a lot of stuff there. You can break it up, give it out as gifts, whatever you want, but a lot of good stuff in there, exclusives. And then they have some new jackets. If you're into the 90s stuff, which I lived it, so I'm not going back. But many people really dig on the 90s fashions. Check out their jackets. They've got that satiny finish that you came to know and love back when I had hair, and also t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, whatever. Enter Boiled 25 at checkout, get 15% off. And also, when I'm on campus at Purdue getting frustrated with the Boilermakers, I like to sprint towards the fire station. And then when I see the fire station, I take a hard left, and then my nose guides me into the doors of AJ's, and I get to see my friends there. It's just plain and simple. Adam, Jake, the whole crew, they're awesome. What else can I say? Food is delicious, excellent service, very good location. I don't know if there's a better place for pub fare on near campus. I don't think there's even a competition. That's eatajs.com if you want to order ahead. Burgers, beef, and beer. That's AJ's. So, I had a lot of times I watch media days and I try to glean a little bit. And sometimes I don't get anything out of them. But this year, I got some really good stuff. I got one of my favorite quotes from Painter that I've ever heard. He's such a good interview generally, but one of my favorite quotes from him I've ever heard, I'm going to give you in a second, about recruiting. It was awesome and powerful, and I hope you see it is that way as well. Also, some of the audio quality during the breakouts, almost unintelligible. So really, I took all my stuff away from some of the bigger media outlets, some of their interviews, their sessions. And so here's what I had to say. Here's what I took away from it, not what I had to say, what they had to say. Let me do this before I get into basketball. Let me talk a little bit about football. Wisconsin's already down with injuries. They lost another guy officially. Shea Malusi is ruled. He's not on the team right now. He's getting away to get healthy, but he hadn't really been making much of an impact on the team statistically because he's been battling injuries. So he's officially pulled himself out of practice and the roster. Stinks to hear. I don't know if you remember, he fractured his leg last year versus Purdue. And this year, officially, he's out. They also are down their starting quarterback. This could be a rock fight, but we'll see. Purdue's new offensive coordinator it's not the right word, is going to be pulling the trigger. He's going to be pulling the strings. He's going to be in charge of the offense for the first time. Jason Simmons, looking forward to seeing if the offense can improve. Hope they can. We'll see. But it's up in Madison, Purdue's own house of horrors. It's been 20 years since Purdue beat Wisconsin. It's been 17 straight games. Like I said, this is a generational problem now. Can't just put it on the Gen Xers or the millennials. Now we're into Gen Z. You guys need to do something. So there's a lot of reasons for concern when Purdue heads to Wisconsin, and this year is no different, even though Wisconsin is a bit down. I don't know if it matters. I don't think that makes us any less concerned. So now let's talk about basketball, something happier, something cheerier, something more fun. And there are a lot of good takeaways. There's a couple things that I'm going to talk about. First, the media days, and then I'm also going to talk about the short film. Not short. Now we're in 20-minute film reviewing Purdue's run from start to the end of the season. I'm going to talk a little bit about my takeaways from that too. So first off, this quote I think is incredible. It's great. Painter is a good interview as always, but he said about getting guys and players that are the right fit or the wrong fit. He said this: when you don't get and then I put it in brackets, talented. When you get the talented wrong guy, the guy you've been pursuing, he beats you twice a year when you don't get him. But when he's on your roster, he beats you every day. I was like, dag nabbit. I don't know if he had been practicing that quote, but he's lived it, right? Painter has gotten the wrong guy on the roster, and it hurt the program, hurt the team, hurt the way the team interacts. And that's one thing you hear over and over when you listen to these interviews, is that culture really matters at Purdue basketball. It's not just like a buzzword. It's more like there are things that create that culture. I'm going to talk about that here in a second, what the team and the players think about the culture. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about what happened last season. And Painter called that UConn team the best offense maybe he's ever seen. He said Edey was 15 to 25 in the game versus UConn, in case you forgot. But he said if I played it again, he would have shot it 35 times. Also, regarding the championship, he said the Big Ten, I don't know if was it Revson? I don't know. Or somebody else said it. The interviewer said it, that the Big Ten has been to 9 out of the last 20 national championship games and hasn't yet won a championship. Painter went on and said, Big Ten coaches don't talk about it. They don't think about it. They don't, in the sidebars, they don't talk about it because they're getting there. They're just not getting over the top. Now let's think real hard about this. How many of those teams have been truly the greatest team or the best team in the nation that year? This is what what made me think of is like Purdue last year. Purdue was clearly the second best team in the nation almost all year, right? They showed it from very early in the season, getting up to number 1 after beating Arizona. And UConn was the better team, though. Purdue got to number 1. UConn took number 1 spot and deserved it. Then during the championship, you saw UConn was a better team. So one thing that Painter and the program contends as a very important part of the culture and the way they've played the last couple of years, continuity. He says that's a key to Purdue's success, having guys on the roster that roll from year to year and year, not cleaning house, not having to do. The antithesis of Purdue, I've been saying it for years, really is Illinois, the way they run things. If a guy's a veteran, he's doing really well, he's probably going to transfer in the offseason. They're going to bring somebody shinier, brighter model in. And they've had pretty good success, but at the same time, I'd say the success has been stunted. They haven't gotten over the hump because for much of the season, they're just kind of learning about each other. So another thing, let's see. Gary Parrish, that's the guy who said about the 9 championships. He said, CBS's Gary Parrish said, he asked the question of Paint, will Smith take off? Because a lot of people think this is the season. Obviously he's preseason Big Ten Player of the Year. If you didn't hear that, it's a pretty big deal. Preseason accolades don't really mean much, but you want the postseason ones. But he said, will Smith take off, or would this season be more difficult now that he's done with Edey? And Paint required, I think it's going to be both. And I think that's right. I think Smith has all the tools, just like Paint said, this has all the tools to do amazing things, big things this year. And later in the interviews, Smith said, all I do is expect perfection. That's it. That's pretty simple. As an old guy, I can tell you, the older I get, the less perfect I get. You guys can see it every time you see a QuickCast here. I'm reminded about every time I do anything. So to hear a guy say he expects perfection and he makes that his goal all the time is pretty incredible. Pretty high watermark. Smith and Lawyer said they're still processing the importance of getting to the Final Four in the championship for the program and the fans, but they know things have changed. So they can feel the difference. They can tell it's palpable, but they haven't gotten all of it yet. And I think that's probably the truth. I don't know if you get the importance of a season like this until years later. And I know morons and lemmings on Twitter and places like that say Purdue didn't win the championship, but what they did is definitely a program changer, in my opinion. It's a culture changer, and I can already hear it and see it among students that were there last year. The standard has risen, in other words. Motivation and preparation are coming into the season look drastically different because of the So you had the bouncing back that they had to do after the Fairleigh Dickinson game, and this year you have the idea of can they pick up where they were? Can they pick up and they can where they left off last year and build on it? I would add another thing. There's so many more question marks as this team heads this season with what do you do with the lineups? And I talk about that here in a second. What do you do with the new personnel? What do you do with the old personnel and mix people in? Smith says, we know what it takes to win a championship. We know what it takes to get to a Final Four now. But now we need to teach the young guys about that, bring that culture down lower. Payne also thinks the offensive success starts with the big still. And that may not surprise you, but I think to some media members it might, because they, everybody knows Purdue goes as far as their big men takes them. But Painter specifically talked about the importance of the big man and specifically TKR. This was crazy, and Jay brought this up. I think he watched Media Day, but this is really nuts. Caleb First is the lone senior on the roster. Non-former walk-on senior. I think that's right. He has only lost one in-conference road game in his entire career in which the court was not stormed. That's crazy. And he's never lost an out-of-conference game, obviously, because of the incredible record Painter and company have had the last few years. What are we, 37, 36 and 0 in the last 3 off seasons, or non-conference seasons. Incredible numbers, no doubt about it. Paint says, he says, I don't choose who plays. He was talking about Lawyer and Smith. He says the freshmen choose for themselves. And what he was referencing, of course, is their work ethic, how quickly they pick up concepts, do they buy in, that sort of thing. And he says Lawyer and Smith specifically really, really earned what they got starting right from the jump. Of course, they're in year 3 of starting, and they have not missed a start, either of them. He also said character of the roster matters greatly, and then he expounded on what are the things that really matter. Academics was a big thing. Do they want to go to school at Purdue? Winning was a big thing. Being a good guy, and the players talked about that too. And then mutual respect among the team. These things are kind of the secret sauce that make the soup at Purdue, if you will. Let's see. It's not just about talent coming in. It's about guys willing to be a part of that and their work ethic. That's a really, really big deal. You saw Purdue got another verbal. It's not signing day yet in basketball this week. And it's another guy who can shoot. It's another guy who works really hard. It's another guy that maybe some programs skipped over, and we'll see how it goes again. Painter keeps defying logic by going and getting guys that not as many Big Ten team wants. Painter has been having Trey Kaufman-Renn, Braden Smith, and Fletch Lawyer as the core of the lineups in practice. No surprise there. And the rest of the team rotates around them to see how chemistry and skill set fit. There's no word on those who the other 2 guys are going to be. I didn't hear it anyway officially, and we talked about that. We've guessed a couple times, but the names we heard over and over were Berg, Jacobson, Colvin and Colvin and Heidi. My notes got away from me. But the other guys you still have heard Burgess's name. I've heard First a couple times, Cox and Harris as well. We'll see what happens. I think we'll know soon enough. It's probably not for me to prognosticate any more than I already have. One thing that was really noteworthy, I think I've said this before, though, when Purdue scrimmages, now they have 2 really good teams. So he says he has 2 sets of 5. And he said, you have a good team when you have 2 sets of 5. That's a big deal. Okay, now I'm going to move on to my thoughts on that Phoenix film. If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. It's incredible. It's on the Purdue Sports feed, I think. It's awesome. The first thing. So one big takeaway, one thing that I thought was odd, Paint has incredible handwriting on a marker board. If you look at it, and that's part of communication, obviously it looks very intentional, but his handwriting is very, very legible. I thought that was interesting. Somebody doesn't do it for him. He writes himself. He sets up his marker board. And that goes along with this cerebral approach, Painter being almost a professor type. He talked about handling basketball practice as a class after classes start, just another class they have to go through, and really striking the intellect of these guys, really getting these guys to think basketball as well as play it. That was a big takeaway, though. If you watch that film, I think you'll see it as well. Another thing I thought was really cool is how Paint values his staff, their input, the assistants. He gives them the floor. He lets them take charge of practices. He lets them take charge of meetings. He lets them tell the team and the other coaches what they see, what they expect. I think that's a big deal. That's part of the reason you've seen some guys come up pretty quickly. I think it's a great leadership tactic to delegate to capable people. When you hire capable people, use them. Let them use their skill. Let them grow into it. Thought that was awesome. Couple more things that I took away from this that weren't surprising at all, but you see them over and over. How perfect of a fit Lance Jones was last year for that team really shows in that film. He embraced the role. The players his teammates embraced him. And you knew it from the jump. If you watch a couple things early in the season, you can see how comfortable he was right away playing with that team, or even early in the season. It didn't take a half a season for him to get there. The other thing, of course, this guy named Zach Edey was really good. His importance can't be overstated. His ability to get a basket when you need a basket. And then bigger than that, he's going to be missed off the court too by this team. The part of the thing he brought with him is this Purdue workman-like culture. The Paint has talked about over and over, because he was not a highly touted guy. He was such a sponge in taking learnings. I think the younger guys that have been watching him had to have learned something about that if you listen, if you watch, if you believe Coach Painter, good things are going to happen. Finally, this is just on the movie making and the nitty gritty of that film. It's beautiful. It's well made. The camera angles are awesome. The cinematography is really, really cool. If I'm going to gripe about one thing, we're going to pick at something, Rob Blackman's audio in a couple places, it was like it was recorded on directly onto his phone or something. I mean, this is something ongoing problem for Purdue, the Purdue social media and blogosphere, whoever. There's just so much bad audio quality. I don't know why. Hopefully mine isn't bad today. It'd be ironic. But the other thing I took finally was how gutted the players were at the end of the loss of the UConn game. They fully expected to win. I think a lot of Purdue fans went in thinking UConn was the best team, and getting there was an incredible run and all that. Getting past NC State was like a cherry on top. But the players were devastated by that loss, and you could see that. And Painter, everybody's seen his great speech after the season, but you could tell that really it wrecked them pretty good, and they felt like they're going to win. So that's about all I got for today. A couple of you guys are here, appreciate it. My boy Max, Max G was the first here, so he gets credit. Big Time Boiler says, Boiler up, can't believe basketball season is right around the corner. Yeah, it's incredible how quickly September went. I mean, I don't know about you guys. September has been like high gear for me. My family, same thing. School gets into gear. Work, for some reason, has picked up at the same time. Having something every weekend, Purdue football wise has been good, but it makes you busier. Yeah, year is flying now. It's official. Daniel Nelson says, what are your thoughts on Painter's girlfriend comment? Oh, okay. That's an interesting one. Yeah. Painter's talked about if every time I call somebody or text them, and they're always on the phone with their girlfriend, and that's a big deal, I start thinking maybe this isn't the right guy for the program. And the funny thing, I thought right away, I'm not going to call him out, but there's a player on the team who's he's got a girlfriend that he's really, really close to. He's a freshman, a true freshman. And I thought, did he take offense to that when he heard that? The other thing I thought was the old Boston Celtics, back when they were really, really good with Bird and McHale and Johnson. What's his name? Dennis Johnson, right? But back when the Celtics were really dominant, they were an incredibly ugly looking team. I don't mean to put anybody down, but they just weren't the best looking people. When I hang around with really handsome people. That's part of it. You guys know that if you come to the handsome hour, so I can judge who's good looking man and who's not. So maybe Painter's just saying we're going to have ugly dudes here. I don't think that's true, by the way. In fact, my daughter, absolutely, Gillis and now Heidi, I think those are her guys. So yeah, there's handsome guys on the roster, and with handsome guys comes girlfriends. I thought it was an interesting comment, though, talking about your priority. Is it basketball or is it girls? I think you can do both. I know Zach Edey had a girlfriend for a big chunk of his third year, because I think he was here 4, but he had another year of eligibility. I think that's right. But I know she wasn't around at all last year. I didn't see her. So it was an interesting comment. I'll say that. I think the whole thing is if their girlfriend is their number one priority in high school, they're probably not going to be too into being gym rats. I think that was the big takeaway that he kind of said, but I thought it was an odd comment. So I think that's what you're getting at. So I'm with you. The Well Ministry says, looking at the players, I noticed dress pants fit like you're walking in standing water. With the state of football, fashion is all I got. Yeah. So I think you're talking about the pants are a little higher off the ground. Purdue has a brilliant connection to a, what's his MRC clothing guy, I think was his username at some point. He's awesome tailor. And I think the players, man, they look, I've said this before, during football, during basketball, same guy does their fittings. The pants are a little higher. There's no doubt about that. I think that's going to start changing, like we go the pendulum of fashion. It's going to swing back the other way. It just has to. But if you look back at some of the things that we were all wearing, myself included, in the early 2000s, in the late 90s. Let's not go back to that. God, things were so ill-fitting. I mean, I look at golf shirts. They were huge. The sleeves hang down to here. Everybody's sleeves went past their elbow. Dress pants, if you're wearing a suit, were massive, like you were a jazz dancer or something. Yeah, we don't need to go back to that. So that some things don't need to be retroed. Let's see. Mohill 93, Maury says, boiler up. Ted Berkey says, Painter wants hard workers. These are people who are easy to root for and you can be proud of. And I think that last part's a big deal. We've gotten incredibly spoiled with the quality of people that have been both in football and basketball. I mean, I've had some pretty high character guys, mostly. When I say mostly, I can think of some right away that aren't the most perfect character. But that said, hardworking, good dudes who appreciate the fans and appreciate the culture. That's a big deal. That's part of the reason it's so hard right now to be down on football and be super honest. And I feel like I have been honest. Hope you guys feel that way. I like the coaching staff a lot. I think they're seem like good guys. That said, the product is horrible, and they were hired to win games and develop and get better. Represent Purdue, of course, so they're doing 1 out of 3 things, I guess. So that's not great. Sam Lovejoy says, Kent Sterling said there's no way BS is the best player in the Big Ten. Yeah, Kent Sterling's a moron. No way Braden Smith is the best player in the Big Ten. Kent Sterling, I don't even understand where he came from. I'm not going to disparage the guy too much, but that's a moronic statement to say there's no way he's the best player in the Big Ten. Kent Sterling is a IU homer, though. You do know that. So I don't know what his background, if he was a radio guy or if he was a local TV guy. I'm from Indianapolis. I don't remember him. He just kind of appeared one day to me, and now he has a YouTube channel, and he talks about basketball, and much of it's fine, but he is an IU guy, so keep that in mind. Keep in mind the source. That's a moronic statement. Big Ten Boiler says, watch this year be the year Purdue actually beats Wisconsin, but highly doubtful. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. We've joked about that. Wouldn't that be the most ironic thing that one of the worst Purdue teams we've had in a while anyway goes to Madison and wins? It'd be stunning, but a lot of very good Purdue teams played mediocre Wisconsin teams and lost. And I think that's part of the problem with all of us who have been around a little bit and have memory of the past 5 years. It's just, man, it's been pretty rough. Ted Berkey says, when we play small, rebounding is an issue according to TKR. Yeah, and this is part of the reason that you'll probably see Jacobson and Berg on the court maybe more than some of us would like, especially if you just love offense, because you need somebody who can crash the glass. Berg is extremely strong from all accounts, and Jacobson, Burgess is also very strong, but Jacobson, he is really good at tipping it to himself because his arms are so long and his feet are so good. He moves very well for a big man. So yeah, I agree that's something they're going to have to do something about it. And we saw that last year when Edey would go out, which he didn't have him often, you would see obviously a decrease in the production on the board. The Well Ministry says, I was at the game the last time Purdue beat Wisconsin. I think I had an Nextel phone. I think it's 2004. I know I was at that game. Was it 2004? They lost 2004, didn't they? They win the one right after. Was that at Madison? So maybe I wasn't there. No, they didn't win. The last win wasn't at Madison. You guys can clarify. Man, like I say, I don't remember everything, but I surely don't remember everything 20 years ago. So it's been a long time. Nathan Dolent says, happy Friday. Where are we with the countdown to Boiler basketball? Where are we at in the countdown? I think you're at like 27 days. 27, I think, depending upon how you count it too, because I think you could call that Creighton game. I know it doesn't count on the record, but it's something a lot of people are looking forward to seeing how Purdue does. I'm going to give you a little hint at what's going to happen. Purdue will lose. And the only reason I say that is not because Creighton's better than Purdue, but Painter likes to really get teams sharpened and motivated through those games. And I can't remember Purdue winning a preseason scrimmage. Remember the super secret, double secret scrimmages with West Virginia? Purdue never won those. Purdue didn't win last year versus Arkansas. I am prepared to see Purdue unofficially 0-1, even though that doesn't count. Jay Tent says, Sleepers has been milking these Painter comments so well for the past few weeks. Yeah, they're, I mean, in their defense, this is what they do. They react to everything, so some of their content's really good. Some of it's not. Ted Berkey says, Sleepers just needs content during the offseason. Agreed. Adam P says, Robert Parrish. Very good. Bird McHale, and Adam P continues, Bird McHale, Ainge, Johnson, Parrish. Yeah, that's Ainge, I guess, would he be the good-looking guy on that group? Johnson wasn't a horrible-looking guy, but there's a lot of skin issues there. So, yeah. Yeah, now we're judging dudes' looks. It was awesome. I did it. It's my fault. Daniel Nelson says, I know you are not a gambler, Dowd. This is correct. But how is Purdue only plus 13? I don't know. The one thing that Wisconsin has problems with is they're offensively pretty bad. I know they jumped out in front on USC last week, but then they just hit the wall. I don't know. It feels to me like it should be bigger than that, but yeah, I do not gamble though. That's correct. That part you're absolutely correct on. The Well Ministry says, bet the farm on Wisconsin covering. I wouldn't bet the farm on anything in college football. That's just me. I just wouldn't. I think it's a fool's game. Ted Berkey says the last win for Purdue was 0-3 in Madison. So there you go. So the Well was there in Madison with a Nextel phone and probably ill-fitting shirts like we're talking about. And then the game after that, the 0-4, was the one where Orton fumbled and Smith dropped the back pedal interception that hit him in the numbers. Mercy. Yeah, everybody always throws that on Orton. I'm like, don't forget, Smith, I know he was a converted quarterback, but he dropped a gimme interception that could have ended the game. So there's a lot of things we can talk about in that game. Ted Berkey says last one West Lafayette was in 97, and that's a son of a that's incredible. And that's nuts. Absolutely nuts. I graduated in 97, so I didn't see that because it was in 96 in Madison. But that factoid's worse than all of that. And I know they talked about that on Golden Black, and I try to forget, Ted, but then you bring it up. Incredible. 1997. Unreal. Okay. Dick Stillwagon says, Boiler up. Finally caught a live show. Glad you're here. Michael says, hey, B. Dowd. How are you doing? Great. Let's see. Hope Purdue ends the streak against Wisconsin. Yeah. Dick Stillwagon. Why do I find myself really liking Jason Simmons? Is this a trap? No, he is very likable. You hear him in interviews. He's awesome. And everybody that knows him says he's a good guy. A friend who's a boiled sports guy. I'm not gonna say that connection, but everybody says he's a good guy, good dad, good coach. I mean, the weird thing to me in the interview, and I know everybody's trying to talk about the positives here, but he talked about his 24 years of experience head coaching in IHSAA football, and I was like, man, that's cool. But there are a lot of great high school coaches that don't deserve to get the shot in college and don't ever get it. A lot of great ones. I actually played at Cathedral when Rick Strife was there, and he was an incredible high school coach. And I don't think he would ever say that he was going to go to college. Friday Night Lights, I always thought about Rick Strife at Cathedral because Coach Taylor reminded me of Strife a little bit. And then Taylor actually went up to college and came back to high school. So it's a different ball game. It is different. I mean, the rosters are bigger. The players are more arrogant, meaning, they all think they're the best at some places. Purdue's culture is decent right now. Maybe Purdue doesn't feel that way right now. But then there are just things you have to deal with the size of coaching staff, not being in charge anymore because a lot of these guys were head coaches. There's a lot of stuff. So, yeah, but he is a likable dude. I'm with you. Mohill93 Maury says, I stopped listening to Sleepers. Good guys, but I couldn't stand their content lately. Here's what I think with these guys. I think both of them, I think they're entertaining as hell. I think they're fun. But you can hear the edge of who they're a fan of and where they came from every now and again. And you can surely, as a Purdue fan, hear that they're not Purdue fans. That's fine. They don't claim to be Purdue fans. They cover Purdue well. When Purdue's good, they're forced to talk about Purdue being a positive thing. So, yeah, I got nothing against them. I just don't listen to them as much as I used to. So I'm with you. Dick Stillwagon says Purdue will cover. Breaking. Purdue will cover. Wisconsin's going to try to use this to pad their running back stats. We'll be prepared. That defense is not going to allow themselves to be embarrassed. Okay, so here's the funny thing. Last week, when I've already forgotten. Last week, Purdue stopped the run really, really effectively, right? I think everybody can agree with that Purdue stopped the run, especially up the middle, really effectively. And statistically, that's been the problem all year is that look, Purdue was the worst team against the run in the conference. I bet they're not. They probably still are because they had such. The second worst was 106 yards behind Purdue. But, yeah, they did a better job stopping the run. And Wisconsin's bread and butter is going up the gut. I think Purdue's tackles will be ready for that. If that's what they try to do, I think Wisconsin's actually not going to do what they think they're going to do. Michael says 1997 was a great year in Purdue football. Yes, 97 was a great year in football. I graduated in 97. 96 was a shitty year in Purdue football. That's the one I was on campus for. So I saw Purdue beat Michigan 9-6, tear down a goalpost. I was on there. I think I've talked about this. And then Coletto resigned. That was a horrible year of Purdue football. Or mediocre at very best. Let's say mediocre if you want to be really, really kind. 97 was an incredible year. I moved to Boston area in early October, late September of that year. I got to see Purdue beat Notre Dame in Ross-Ade there. We got to see Billy Dicken, who once was kind of left for dead as a quarterback, if you don't forget. Remember, they moved him to safety because his shoulder was so bad and they wanted him on the field. Coletto used him on the defensive side of the ball, but he came back. His shoulder was relatively healthy. I don't think he was 100% yet. Remember, he went to play arena football too. But yeah, 97 was a great year of Purdue football. It was a great rebirth of Purdue football, a renaissance, if you will. So, let's see. Dick Stillwagon says, I love Sleepers. You have to join the Discord. I will not. And that's about it. That's all we got today. So thank you guys, girls, for tuning in live. If there are, we appreciate it. And if you're listening on delay, that's also good. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great Friday. And I hope your Friday's like mine. Not too stressful today. Looking forward to doing some things with the kids. LBD's coming back in town after all because it's fall break. So that's fun. That's exciting. Hope you have a great day. Dick Stillwagon says $10 a month. There's no damn way that I would pay that much for that content. So, but anyway, I'm cheap. Have a great day. God bless you. Hammer down. We'll talk to you after the game in Madison. See ya.